talking in this particular panel about the cooperation and investment opportunities in agro-processing and advanced manufacturing. I'm grateful that we had some great presentations before lunch that painted a picture of what's happening in South Africa and also particularly what's happening in Zambia. It's unfortunate that there's this disparity in terms of the trade balance between the two countries. It's a reality, it's just something that's there. And the question I guess we need to ask ourselves is, how do we, A, develop both countries, but at the same time start to address the imbalance and try to balance the trade flows between the two nations. There are many areas and opportunities that are available. We heard Zambia's economy is contributing, particularly the agro-processing and manufacturing, somewhere in the order of 8 to 11%. So there's huge potential, in other words. But let's hear from our speakers, both from South Africa and Zambia, and they come from various areas of business to give us a perspective, both from South Africa and Zambia, just how we can look at this, particularly agro-processing, because I think that's the biggest biggest contributor to the manufacturing sector in Zambia. And then we've got to question the whole advanced manufacturing area as well. I think Zambia, they talked about pharmaceuticals and areas like that, particularly in South Africa as well. We're a little bit further down the line perhaps, but lessons to be learned from both. So I'm going to introduce them as they speak instead of going through the whole panel now. And I'd like to start with you, Mr. Bruggeman, the Chairman and CEO of South African Capital Equipment Export Council.
An easier word for capital equipment is machinery and equipment, and we've been exporting all over the world since then. The nice part about Zambia is we see Zambia as a very big market for the Export Council and for all our members. My first office was opened in Kitwe in 2002, and I registered a business in Kitwe in the mining sector. And there are many, many of our members in Zambia at the moment in the mining sector up in Ndola and in Kitwe that have got registered business and are doing business, flourishing business. The capital equipment or machinery and equipment that we're exporting from our side into Zambia at the moment is approximately 12.5 billion rands worth of goods every year. So you can see it's a big industry for the machinery and the equipment side. The good news is that I'm going up to Zambia, to Kitwe and Ndola again early next year, and we're starting 2 specific hubs in Zambia where we are promoting local production within the Zambian community. In other words, the companies are going to be manufacturing some of their goods in South Africa, sending it up to Zambia as CKD, which is semi-knockdown, and they will be assembled in Zambia, and from there we'll be training a lot of the Zambia people in Kitwe and in Ndola to do the services and the installation and the repairs of all the product. So we see Zambia as a very big market, and it's a very good market. But I'm actually pleased that we have this ministerial today, because one of the big things is when you speak to entrepreneur, and all our members are entrepreneurs in private industry, you will only do business where you have ease of doing business. When business becomes complicated, when you don't get paid, when there's hassles and troubles at the border post, when you can't get your goods there, entrepreneurs go to other countries where it's so much easier. And if there's one thing I'd like to see that happens today, is that part of doing the business in Zambia. Zambians are great people. Africa's a great place. We need to make Africa a great place. But we need to get over the obstacles of transporting the goods from South Africa to Zambia and not having our goods standing at a border post for 6 weeks, or where the border guys want bribes and corruptions, or when the guys doing the inspections want bribes and corruptions. That's when you lose interest in a country. So Zambia is a great place. Let's make Africa great. But we need to today try and get the two governments to make ease of doing business a lot easier. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bruggeman. I think So financial services is one area that we need on both sides of the border. And as an investor trying to get into Zambia, trying to get into South Africa, we're going to hear from Ms. Mzinga Melu, who's the CEO Barclays Africa Regional Management, to give us...
Really, what role do banks play in providing access to finance, especially for investors as they come in? And what type of instruments do we look at, in the country? I think I'm happy to say, as Barclays, we are represented in every major city in Zambia. We have 52 branches with over 2,000 points of sale machines. But I think the drive speaking about the wider financial sector, digitization is a big drive in the financial sector, meaning how do we move banking from just brick and mortar, but to be able to really offer these, exciting instruments which our investors are looking at. I think the first thing I'll say is that when you look at the linkages between South Africa and Zambia, from a financial sector point of view, they're not so bad. We have 4 banks that are South Africa based that are operating, in Zambia. And these are FNB, Barclays, Stanbic, just to mention, some of them. And there's a lot of digitization drive that has been going through in the country. And as investors, there lies in an opportunity. What more can you do to really provide more, investment in the digitization drive?
Indeed, thank you. All right, I'm going to go straight to Mrs. Rosetta Mwape Chabala, who's the president of the Zambia Association of Manufacturers. You heard from her a little bit earlier on, and she spoke about what they're doing, what they're trying to do. And maybe in just a few minutes' time is, how do we do it together, South Africa and Zambia? Because right now we're busy trying to do what we do in each other's countries and export as mad as we can to whoever. How can we do it together, perhaps?
Thank you very much. I'll say less because I think I already made my points. But I think both countries have comparative advantage when it comes to agriculture. And what we find is this competition of every country wanting to do something even when they cannot do it best. So for example, in Zambia, we've got a lot of land. The land is fertile. You can drop maize anywhere and it will grow. It's already a very real comparative advantage we have. But what we really don't have is machinery to try and mechanize that agriculture. And I think synergies with South Africa, who has already advanced in that aspect, would be key in this conversation. If you look at our budget for 2017 that was presented in Parliament earlier, it's a pro-agriculture budget. A lot of incentives given to agriculture, which I think everybody should take advantage of, especially those that are actually dealing in equipment that are to do with agriculture. I'll give you a perspective of how much the agro-processing industry still is needed in Zambia. Zambia, the biggest company that processes quite a lot of agricultural products, does not export. What does that mean? It only exports a little into Malawi. They cannot meet the demand locally. If they can't meet the demand locally, then you've got space for you to actually come and add value to what we already grow in quite a lot of numbers and tonnage. I mean, in Zambia, sometimes agriculture was thought through as maize. And we've moved on. Agriculture is not maize. We're looking to other crops. We're looking to actually now more animals, fish, and all those kind of things. So it has opened up the conversation, and it has opened up opportunities for private sector to invest. And when you are in Zambia, especially agro-processing, Congo is our 11th province. So we feed Lubumbashi, and it's a lot of people in there. So you're not only looking at the 14 million people, you're looking at all the surrounding countries, as was told by ZDA, in terms of the population we are feeding. In the region, we've observed that people are short of maize, they're short of all these staple foods that we actually eat. And Zambia has an excess. We have excess in maize, we are self-sufficient in wheat, we're self-sufficient in a lot of crops. But I think the challenge has been how we translate those crops into value-added products. And until Zambia does that, we will not see as much value as we can realize from the agro-processing. And so I think the government has supported there, and private sector can only do their part as well. The other thing is what my colleague already talked about, trade barriers. We consume a lot of South African products, but I think South Africa consumes very little of Zambian products. And I think we need to rethink that and see how we tap in those opportunities. The only last comment I'll have to make is I'm sure as South Africans, you've seen how difficult it is for you to penetrate in East Africa, because you actually cannot trade with East Africa from South Africa. SADC and COMESA, there's already a separation. Why are you not tapping in the Zambian market, which will actually give you a stepping stone in the north? And I think the South African businesses should start thinking in that direction. Thank you.
My two colleagues, this side and this side, one spoke about his child, asked him a funny question. My daughter is a lawyer. She asked me one question. She says, Dad, why don't you go back to government? I said, why? She says, because the food security in this country is going to be very serious in the next 10 years. You have to go and contribute in food security. And this side, sister, I have a very good one for you. Why we are not consuming? Because we are not bringing. Right now, we are short of a major problem of chicken. We need chicken. We have to go to the shores of Brazil and Argentina to go and get chicken when we can get locally here in Zambia. But make sure that the chicken we're getting, we want it less at about 15, at most 20% brine put into the chicken, because the foreigners are giving us 38%, which makes us to have all these diseases, cancer, so that their medicine goes into those countries. I just want to give you a very quick fact about us. We are 55 million people in South Africa. With the problems that we have, an average age of 15 to 25 and 25 to 35. So we are a growing nation. And that means there's great potential for anyone to come and invest in us. Thank you very much. We've got piggery. We don't want the pigs to be more than what they are. They're fine for those who eat it. But sheep meat is also a problem for us. We would like to really have discussions with Zambia how we can get sheep. We are a very funny country with all the meat that you can imagine on game. In this country, we have over 20 game reserve farms that are owned by government nationally, let alone the small game farms that are owned by private individuals, which we can't count, especially in KZN, which is KwaZulu-Natal, and the Limpopo area. We have an extension of a wonderful coastal area of 300 kilometers into the sea, where we get over 200 species of fish. I can name something like salmon for you. I think you're going to have that for your dinner tonight. Redfish, rockets, angel, you name it, we've got it. But this is what we can have a sort of a synergy in terms of our export with Zambia. And the good thing is that we're a member of SADC, which obviously means 85% of the items will be tax exempt, and I hope our leaders will make sure that it goes to 100%. We are also a member of the Common Monetary Area of Lesotho and Botswana, so it means in terms of currency, sending ships to Zambia would not be a problem. And the interesting thing for those who don't know, there are many trucks that come from Zambia bringing food into South Africa. I don't know whether that is in the statistics of the Department of Trade and Industry or not. I mentioned fish. I would like to lastly look at forestry. We have some of the largest forestry in this country in two areas, which is in Mpumalanga and Limpopo, something like 600 kilometers stretching right from the bottom of Mpumalanga in a place called Malelane to an area called Pinda Maria in the northern part of thing, just parallel to the Kruger National Park, which is one of our pride in this country. KwaZulu-Natal also gives us a good site on forestry. What is interesting with forestry, there are other supplements that you can also utilize like groundnuts that are involved, and in some areas even avocado grow well into those areas. And the last one is in the Western Cape. I don't want to bore you with the stats of South Africa, big as it's supposed to be, but I want to just look at agro-processing. I've selected two areas which I think will be an appetizer for our visitors. One is called the Orange Free State, and the other one is called Gauteng. Just to give you stats on those areas. In the Free State, commonly known as the food basket of South Africa, in year 2012, 2014, and 2014, 12 statistics give us the following interesting thing, which I think will be an opportunity for the Zambians, either in export or in participation. The Free State produces 90% of the South African cherries, 53% of sorghum plant, 51% of sunflower, 40% of maize, and 38% of groundnuts, and potatoes range at 30%.
Because unfortunately, time is not on our
Oh
side. So
no!
what I'm going to suggest
You don't sleep at night to prepare documents,
the
then
Free
they give you
State
3
and
minutes to
Gauteng
think.
you have highlighted, and they will come to you afterwards.
Can I summarize then? Can I then summarize before I do? On agro-processing, which I think, Ms. Shindoro, is what you love. We would like to have, we've seen an opportunity with maize, the grits plants that can be put next to the silos, where you can grow the area in terms of food blending, sunflower powder stabilizers, ice cream and cones, biscuits and added processed foods, which we think will be very good for both our countries, your country and your country. I don't know what to do, gentlemen. I have just given you 5% of my presentation. 95, I'm putting it back in my bag.
Thank you very much, Peter. Of course, if I had my way, I would have said the most important thing was about my son's family. Yeah, but maybe I will not go into the detail. I'll just throw up two challenges, or some of what I would call the conundrums that we find ourselves in as the investment promoters. And this is much more around competition or collaboration within the region. Zambia has so much vast land, 750,000 hectares plus, and then you are looking at a population of only 15 million people, meaning we still have a lot of land that is available to grow a lot of crops that South Africa is importing from Brazil and other countries very far away from South Africa. I'm told, I think I was listening to news that there's some maize that is coming into, or corn. With the kind of land we have, if we collaborated much more than compete, we could grow that maize and supply it, and logistically it will be near. My last thought. The other challenge that I think we need to think around is that why do we do business? Why do we invest? Because we want to upgrade the standard of living of our people. And the challenge is there's more investment into technology, and technology in the short run, including in agro-processing, reduces the number of people you are going to employ, while it improves your efficiencies. So you invest, you produce more, but you have fewer people who have jobs, so your market reduces because fewer people have money to pay for what you are producing. That's the conundrum. I'll leave it at that.
Cut through the red tape and bureaucracy. The financial sector there is sufficiently sophisticated and wants to help across the sectors in the value chain, up and down. And again, one thing that keeps coming through, let's rather do what we do best than compete. Let's consolidate our efforts. There are gaps. There are areas that we can't do ourselves. We don't have enough capacity. Perhaps we can share and help each other there. Chicken, nice chicken, thin chicken is required. Sheep meat. There's a whole blue economy as well where synergies are possible. as well as forestry options as well. And I think at the end of all of this, whatever it is that we're trying to do, let's not forget that we're busy trying to help our people and upgrade their lives. To our first panel, ladies and gentlemen, looking at investment opportunities, cooperation, agro-processing, and advanced manufacturing. A big hand to you. Thank you very much.